And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back on this journey. Last video I talked about this, and I figured I would show you firsthand. There's what I'm talking about as far as coiling up these wires. You want it nice and tight on here, which leaves you your pigtail. So that is that. And since we did the shocks on the last one, both of these pages are covered. All our shocks are installed, front and back. And that is kind of what I was waiting on for this shift servo. So, that being said, I'm going to have to reinstall my custom plate up here, which I have over yonder. And there goes one of those O-rings that I put off to the side. Alright, so we need to install this plate up top, which is not included in the kit. Custom made winch plate from a winch mounting kit that I purchased from Tower Hobbies. These are aluminum. I simply drilled out one of these holes a little bit larger up here, obviously a lot larger because, once again, measure once, drill 20 times. And I'm just making sure that that's going to jive on here, and it looks like it's hitting on this shock. I'm not too sure if it is or not. I'm going to have to flip this sideways. Wow, that is pretty close. Pretty close. Don't know if it's hitting there. It doesn't appear to be hitting. I can slide it back and forth. So that definitely close tolerances. I guess ultimately I could cut this off a little bit down here just to make that a little bit more exact. But we don't need to do that, and I really don't have much in the way of cutting supplies, so I'm probably just going to leave that. So one quick second to get this servo mounted on here. I did go back and trim off the plastic mounting tabs that were on here, the locators, just to make sure that the servo was going to be sitting level. So let me get this guy mounted up here real fast. I guess I'll have to start with putting in this little set screw that, or countersunk screw. I chamfer this hole, and then use an RC four-wheel drive countersunk screw or tapered screw head, which I have laying around here somewhere, which is right here. This guy right here with the metal flake hanging on it. This is the guy that we will be running into that countersunk hole. So 1 second. Well, I had that lined up and ready to go, but it looks like I am going to have to bring this out to the garage and probably do my best. I'm going to have to use those robo grips or a pair of vice grips, hold on to this, and try to use a reciprocating saw to cut this off right here. I'll be back in a moment. Hopefully I have all my fingertips when I come back. And through the miracle of video, we are back. There is a little piece that I had cut off. I did dig up a pair of vice grips, so clamp this into a pair of vice grips. It would have been a lot easier if I had an actual vice. Very dangerous operation. Do not recommend doing this like this. And then I used a big Milwaukee industrial reciprocating saw to cut off the excess there. So that was definitely sketchy, holding it out like this and having the saw so far away from this. Touch and go. I do still have all my fingers, so we are all good on that end. Kids, have your parents help you if you need to do anything like that. So let me pull this out of here. I'll do a little sanding on that real quick and clean up those rough edges and get this baby slapped on. And we are back. I smoothed up our rough edges here enough that it's not going to cut my finger or chafe any wires or anything like that. It is not perfect. There is a couple little teeny weeny grooves there, but they are smooth. And I just went ahead and used this little piece of grindstone slash flint. I keep this in my toolbox just in case I need to do any smoothing on plastic or metal or anything like that. A little grindstone dust on my finger. Alright, so that is good to go. That is going to sit just like so. Definitely have the clearance now. Alright, let me attach this. Alright, well, we got that on and in place where it needs to be. Just a matter of mounting our servo up, which is right here. And this is pretty tight back here. You do have to bend this back just a little bit to clear the transmission. And this is going to be a two-handed operation, so one more second here. And just like that, she is installed. Little pigtail here sticking out, but there is a small lock nut down under there that you probably can't see, but it is on there. And there's our little shot of the lock nut. See, there is some pretty close tolerances there between that and the other servo mount, the stock servo mount, which is on the left close to the transmission. But once again, there she be, and it does work. And just to recap, yep, shocks not my forte. Fabricating things like this, that's where I shine. So there we go. That is installed. And our little curly Q pigtail working out like a champion. Once again, many thanks to all the RCers who have been doing that in the past, and Aaron Medic from RC Sparks. Awesome idea, brother. Thank you very much. Alright, so we are all set on this portion of it. That is all installed. We did this on the last video, installing the shocks. And finally, at 6 minutes and 33 seconds, we are turning the page, E6 to F1. So we are done with all the E-bags. They are all done. And once again, they are definitely giving us a parts bag reference. That is kind of cool. They are reluctant, or very few and far between on bag references in here. So we're going to need one M2 20mm, it appears. And that is going to be joining the front half of the roll cage to the top half of the roll cage. So we are working on the chassis, we're working on the roll cage. Getting closer, almost there. F1, F2, and you guys are probably saying FU, but here we go. Give me 1 second. And right off the bat, yes, there is a lot of parts in this F bag, but no hardware in the F bag. So I am on a hardware hunt. I don't know where the hardware might be. It might be in, well, no, here's another F bag. Here we go. F3. F2. That is a spare tire mount, and then we have some screws down here, so I just only assume that that is them. Let me dig those guys out and get to slapping this baby together. Alright, F1 and F2. Well, this is F2, and the big main bag, I believe, is F1. Alright, and then we have F3.1 and F3.2 as well. F2 has the spare tire mount. Exact same one as WLtoys from the 10428. I recognize that because I mounted that on the back of a Jeep Wrangler body for the spare tire. So we need one M2 20mm, and we'll dig that guy out and slap that together in no time flash. No time flash, no time fast. And we do have a flash, so my battery is charged. Sorry guys, 1 second. And we did have to remove some excess pieces. These are just the from molding. I had to cut a piece off up there and cut a couple pieces off here and a couple pieces that were attached back here. Just like a model car, they have those little extra pieces from when they were initially molded. Alright, so that screw is in. It is countersunk. Be very careful with the threads. Once again, easy to pull the threads out. This plastic here might be the same quality as WLtoys as far as the actual roll cage. I mean, maybe it might just have a little bit more rigidity to it. Once again, rigid being the word of the day, it might have a little bit more rigidity to it. It's not quite as flexible as WLtoys, but once again, I mean, it does have a relatively smooth, hard surface to it. It doesn't feel soft like the WLtoys. It's just a very soft feeling plastic. This definitely feels a little bit harder, a little bit smoother. So, but you know, once again, it is relatively flexible and definitely easy to strip the threads. I did not strip the threads, but it is possible to strip the threads. So don't go crazy when you're snugging these things down. Just want it snug enough to hold in place. Alright, so we are moving on to this page, and we are going to need 8 M2.5 16 millimeters and 6 M2.5 20 millimeters. Alright, so let's dig up our hardware on that. We'll dig up the parts that are needed for this particular portion, which are going to be putting on the number plates, assembling this top half, assembling everything. It looks like we're putting everything together on this one page. So step by step, I guess. We'll do one side and then we'll do the other side and get her together. Let's get her done. And just briefly, here's what I'm talking about the molding. This little piece of plastic right here that my finger is touching, that does need to be removed from this point and the upper point. Nothing on the back as far as removing any excess plastic, and this part right here. Gonna have to remove this little tab right here that my finger is touching. I believe that is extra. Yep, that is just a piece of excess molding, as well as this whole bottom part that my pinky is touching. So we'll go ahead and cut those off. And before we get started, I did mention on the bottom of the roll cage that didn't mention, but I did notice that it does have some metal inserts, which is probably just a little tube that has some gnarled edging on it that is molded into the plastic, or put into the plastic after the fact, and it is threaded. So even though it is threaded and it is kind of inserted into the plastic, it just has like little gnarled edges, I'm sure, that it's getting grip from. So you still want to be careful tightening these down, not to over tighten those. Even though I'm sure WLtoys does not have these. I know on my 10428A, the 10428A, not the 10428, but mine doesn't have these. You were just screwing into plastic with that. So just one more little comparison there. Alright, so let's dig out the screws, let's cut these off, and let's get this baby going here so we can slap the body on it and get her out on the trail. And here we go. I have our parts somewhat laid out. Our front assembly, the little windshield area, part of the roof, another part of the back of the roll cage, and this is part of the battery mount. Wham, bam, and thank you, ma'am. Have our little one side part sitting over there, the other side part sitting on my lap. Don't have the number plates on hand yet, they are sitting off to my side. And it looks like we are using 3 of the 6mm screws to go through here. These 102s are the 20mm. I will be connecting that to that. 102s are the 6mm, so a couple 6mm up here. 101, I believe that is a 20mm. Wait, 101 is a 6mm. 102 is a 20mm. My bad. 20mm, 6mm. 6mm. So these two are 20s. That is a 6mm. That is a 6mm. That is a 6mm. Or 6mm. 16mm. And that one is a 20mm. Little confusing, but relatively simple. We'll start bolting this mess together. I have all our stuff laid out, our 20s and our 16s. Let me get to this. And here is my starting point. I'm starting with this part of the windshield roll cage part and attaching it to the front section here with the 2 16mm screws. That is this part right here. And I have not put those in all the way. I left those a little bit loose on each end just for adjustment purposes and figuring out final locations. Next portion that I believe that I'm probably going to do is I think I'm going to attach this left hand side to this part here. Yep. I'm going to start attaching this left hand side, I believe. Will probably be the next logical place to look, or a place to start, and then work our way to the back. On these last number plate ones, I'm gonna probably put those screws in last. Just FYI. So let me get us started assembling this part, and we'll be right back. And here we are so far, leaving all the screws loose. These are 20 millimeters up here. These little guys down here are the 16 millimeters, 2 more 20 millimeters, one on either side. For these guys, 2 more 16 millimeters, 20 millimeters on this side, because they are actually going from this piece of plastic to this piece of plastic to this piece of plastic. And finally, we are just sitting at the back half, which is going to be this part right here and this part right here, I believe. Nope, I already attached this part right here. So it's just a matter of attaching this part to the frame and that part right there to the frame, which also requires a number plate because those screws are going through the number plate. So let me grab the number plates and put this little guy together. And 1 second here. And voila! That part is pretty much installed. I did leave everything loose. None of these screws are tightened down. I kind of want to keep it loose just for fitment purposes, and after we get it all on and installed, then I'll go through and snug everything back down. So that concludes this page. Here is all our junk plastic that we had cut off that we do not need, which is just excess molding. It's not like I went in and did any kind of custom cutting. And turning the page. F3, we need one M4 30 millimeter, one M4 lock nut. And that is for the spare tire assembly. So we'll get to putting that together, and then we're just going to quickly take a cruise over to the next page. Need 8M 2.5 16 millimeters. Okay, well, we'll get that all squared away here, and when we come back, we'll start assembling this. And we are back. I have all our parts laid out on this page. Our 8M 2.5 by 16 millimeter screws lined up here on the magnet. This little plastic bracket that we will need, as shown in the picture. Move back over to this side. Here's our spare tire holder. This does just kind of snap into place over top of yonder mount here. And I did say that it was going to be a lock nut, but it's not a lock nut. I kind of thought it was a lock nut just because of the crown that's in the picture there, but it is just a standard nut. And here is our corresponding M4 by 30 millimeter screw. So we will slip this into here. I guess I can put our lock nut into the top here. Well, not a lock nut, but I say it again. Alright, that is installed into here. We'll run our screw into that real fast, and then we'll jump over to this page and start attaching this to the back of the chassis, or back of the body, or frame rail, or whatever you want to call that. And we are back, and through the miracle of video, she is all together. Now, they didn't really specify as to what direction this was supposed to be mounted, this tire rack, whether it was supposed to be this way or this way. But if you take a real close look at the instructions, you can see that there's a straight bar across the top. And at the bottom, there's just barely a little lip showing, which is this part right here. So I made sure to put it on like that. As far as this back section, there is no right or wrong way to put that on, but on the very back of it, you can see in the center here, that little plastic dimple that is on the other side of my finger, right in the center of that X. I put that obviously on the inside so it's not to be seen from the outside. And after I put this part in, I went ahead and snugged everything else back down, kind of tightened everything back down now that the frame is somewhat together. The only part that I didn't tighten down was this part right here, these last two screws. I left those loose because the battery mount, or the battery tray, is going to be sitting on top of that. So I haven't touched that just yet, but everything else has been snugged down. And once again, be careful snugging these down. This is a softer plastic. It is easy to bend, and it is easy to strip these screws out. So be careful not to strip any screws out in this area. So that being said, we are going to turn the page and continue forward here. Trying not to lose any parts in the process because my table is getting to be a little cluttered up here. And it looks like we are putting the head on the driver. Vitera 230001. Bag F3. Well, it tells us bag F3, so we're going to have to dig up that screw, but it's not telling us what size that screw is. But I think it's the same size as these guys. Maybe not. 235096. 235096. 4 of those. 301. Not sure. One quick pause here and let me decipher this and we'll get this guy's head on his shoulders. And I dug up part bag F31. They don't specify what the screw is right here, but I do see a washer on it. And it's a relatively, I don't know, medium-sized screw. And this screw here was the longest screw in this bag. All the other ones seem to be relatively equal. And there was one washer in there, so I am assuming that this is the guy for the job at hand. So let me get this guy's head on his shoulders and we will move on to installing this cockpit into the roll cage. And skipping all the arduous journey here, I dug up those screws, the 4 screws. I installed the cockpit. It is not easy to do. It's a very tight fit getting this up in here in between the roll cage. I had to come in from the bottom and kind of work it around. Worked in this corner first and then slid in this corner. These 2 screws right down here, very hard to see, right here below my finger. There is no easy access for that screw. You try to come in from here and you're coming in on an angle with your driver. You come in on here and you're coming in on an angle with your driver. There is just really no easy way to hit that screw. So ultimately it started going in sideways and then I had to turn it straight as I was getting closer to the bottom on both sides. This side over here in particular was a real pain in the butt to get that guy in. But those are all in there. Our driver is sitting inside the roll cage and that portion is complete. Now we are going to turn the page here and I'm at 22 minutes and 20 seconds. Turning the page, going to be putting on these side panels. Going to have to start up another video unfortunately, but it looks like this will be the end of the video after that. So one more video and this baby will be all built. So thanks for watching guys, thanks for tuning in, thanks for all your support. All the new viewers, thank you very much. All the old viewers, thank you very much. Once again, keep throwing out Aaron's name from RC Spark Studio, real good guy. Ben Brubaker from Buy It, Break It, Fix It on YouTube, awesome guy too as well. Look at his channel if you haven't already, real good guy. And there's a bunch of other guys as well that I haven't mentioned, but if you look at my channel and look at all the pages that I am subscribed to, you will see that I try to surround myself with goodness. So a lot of good people on my channel that I'm subscribed to. So once again everybody, thanks for watching and thanks for joining in. One more video coming up and it should be the final video. We'll see ya.